Alright, family, we are back with another one. This is not an astrology video. I should go ahead and say that off rip. This is not an astrology video. So, in this video, I kind of wanted to talk about triggers because I do think it is something that a topic that needs to be discussed. Not saying that it hasn't been discussed anywhere on the face of YouTube, because I'm pretty sure you can pull up 1,000 videos and there's a million topics on emotional triggers and stuff like that. But I haven't done an emotional trigger video on my channel. But family, before I start that off, I want to introduce you all to my new deck. Yes, baby, yes. So I was debating whether I was gonna actually bring my intuitive pull cards back, but I think I am. So I did want to try this deck out with you all. So before we actually get into the spiritual message or just topic of triggers, I do want to pull a message to get us kind of started. So I know when you think of triggers, people kind of shy away from triggers because it's so triggering. I know that's lame as fuck. I just had to say that. But I mean, seriously though. But triggers are very triggering. So people handle triggers in different ways, depending on where they are in their spirit, spirituality, how open they are to receive and accept messages. A lot of that, depends on a lot of things. It really does. And it also depends on the emotional maturity of the people that you're dealing with as well. Because I know when you talk about triggers and stuff like that, people get triggered talking about things that are triggering. So my whole point, for this video is not to just talk about triggers for the sake of triggering the hell out of people. No, I definitely want to kind of put this video out there to make you think, because I'm going to come at this from two different ways. I'm going to come at it from a standpoint of understanding a trigger and understanding the difference between a trigger and if something's just really not resonating with you. And that's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, something that's just not resonating with you, because I know within the spiritual world, we always get caught up on everything having a meaning. And if you're around someone, who is triggering you in any way, that's work you need to do, blah, say, blah. And I'm not disagreeing with that because it is true to a certain extent. So we did get one pulled, family, and this is so cute. Okay, this is Playful, number 44, with a cute little kitty on it. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and read the message that we have here for the kitty with the number 44. Let's see what we got here. All right, Playful. So, Playful. Let's hold this up so you can get a visual while I'm reading it. My child, life is not always so serious. Choosing this symbol means that it's time to lighten up and be careful. Be playful. My apologies. No matter what you're asking about, this is the time to have a sense of humor. Smile and go do something fun. Life has a way of answering all your questions when you're not looking for it. Wouldn't it be better if you were enjoying your life rather than just sitting around waiting for what you want to happen? Don't take yourself so seriously. Is it time to lighten up and be playful? Know that when this symbol appears in your life, it's time to start having fun. Yep. Yeah, and it kind of goes with this, when sometimes you got to laugh at stuff in life. And when you're such in a serious mood all the time and you're not, say, the most energetically at a positive space, you're going to be more triggered than usual. So that's why it's always good to practice balance and have laugh at life sometimes. Everything, even the stuff that irritates you and make you mad, laugh at it. Because at the end of the day, soaking in that energy is not going to do anybody any good, especially you. And just keeping that playful energy and keeping things lighthearted even when you feel like you want to go fucking insane. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because then you'll be giving into your triggers. So that's why, it's good to keep it playful. So now we can get into this video, family, once I get off my phone. Okay. I didn't have the answer that I thought it was something else. All right, y'all. Let me get back on board. Okay. Okay, turn now. All right. And where's my straw? Okay. So I wanted to talk about emotional triggers, family, because I see I've taken up 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. Okay. When you think of emotional triggers, you think of things that make you upset, basically emotional responses to things with you, how you think before you react, that type stuff. And to give more like a textbook definition, is basically an automatic response to the way a person expresses emotions that you deem unacceptable or just downright offensive. So that's where the emotional triggers and reactions will come. So that's the textbook definition of what an emotional trigger is. Now, how this will look. These are things that can play out in your memory, especially things you haven't healed within your subconscious mind. Certain objects can trigger you, especially if they're tied to things that are of sentimental feeling or value to you. Maybe how a person may speak, that may spark negative emotions in you. So any way a person act or object or a memory or anything that can trigger you into that lower vibrational mindset to be triggered, where you're basically just reacting and you're not thinking, that would be called an emotional trigger. So what I want to get into next is basically how to identify when you have these triggers. So the thing that I like to do is to try your best to take note of yourself, your emotions, and your body, say when you feel triggered. And I know it's kind of hard to do because when you're triggered, you're so used to reacting and being in a mode of, I'm going to do whatever because I'm feeling a certain type of way. You're not really thinking about what's going on within your head and with the feeling that's going on within your body when you're feeling this. And it's important to do this because once you understand how your body reacts to certain things and triggers and what's going on in your head, you can be like, okay, I can somewhat work with this and diffuse myself so I don't react in a way that I will have to pay for later on down the line. And this takes practice. It really does. It's not something you're going to be able to do overnight. But when you find out, and there's plenty fucked up situations in life that will make you lose your shit and trigger you. So just test yourself. Trust, it's gonna come. Don't go out looking for it. It's gonna come. But be on yourself. Be constantly mindful, okay, I'm feeling mad as fuck right now. Okay, when you're mad as fuck, how are you feeling in your body? Are you feeling, is your heart beating? Are you feeling like you can't contain the energy? Like, how are you feeling? Then that'll let you know, okay, this is the actions that are in my head when I'm triggered, and this is how my body responds when I'm being triggered. And once you're able to do this, it basically forces you to kind of sit with these certain parts of yourself that you feel that are triggers or maybe a little uncomfortable, and you're able to see it from a different perspective. That's what it does for you. So next time you're triggered, breathe. I know that's hard to do, but if you breathe, you're able to relax and you're able to be in your thinking brain versus your emotional brain, because it's going to serve you in a lot more situations that may come up in your future. So triggers can also be triggering because in a sense you're being called out on your shit, and no one likes to be called out, but it's being called out because it's necessary. And no one likes to be called out, so that can trigger you as well. So I used to hear this saying so much, and I really didn't understand it until, I want to say, 2020 up until now, because the things that have taken place in my life, I've had no choice but to humble and surrender myself to this one quote, because I could not do it any other way. And it's basically saying, in order to heal it, you have to feel it. Let me say that again. In order to heal it, you have to feel it. And for me, that's danger zone, because when you're used to repressing and not sitting with yourself and honoring certain feelings and emotions that may come up, and you're a professional repressor like me, you know, the feeling the heal shit could be like a death sentence because you're not used to those heavy emotions because you're so used to stuffing them, and when it's time for them to come up, it's like a Niagara Falls coming out. It's so much emotional energy in water, you can't even deal with it and contain it because you haven't allowed yourself to release when it was necessary, you know. So that's why I feel that heal in order, that feel it in order to heal it is true. You know, it's not the easiest thing to experience, especially if you're not really an emotional person or you have problems expressing emotions or being vulnerable in that way. It can be very triggering, but you have to go through those emotions so you can get to the clarity. That's what that is. The emotional barrier that you need to break down is just like breaking the wall to let all that stuff release so that everything could go back to calm, smooth, flowing waters again. It's not all backed up by this dam that, you know, is trying to block everything else from getting through. I hope I'm not sounding crazy. I'm trying to put it in perspective so where you kind of get the idea of you really have to go through your emotions no matter how comfortable, uncomfortable they are to get to certain parts of yourself, higher parts of yourself in order to ascend. So the other thing I wanted to get into before I get into the unpopular opinion, which is my other way of looking at triggers, I wanted to recommend a book that is very good. It put a lot of things in perspective for me. This book is very powerful. You know, I've read it only twice. I am going to read it again, but it's basically called The Four Agreements. I think it's by Miguel Ruiz. I could be wrong, but I'll make sure I definitely have that link below. But The Four Agreements. And basically what this book goes over is basically how to deal with situations in life, situations that involve emotions, and it basically shows you how to look at different situations so you won't be triggered so much. That's exactly what this book is about, showing you ways to change your mind to look at a different situation. And it's a very powerful book. I know I'm probably not selling it the best, but when you can, look at the book. It's called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, and it basically gives you kind of like the blueprint on how to deal with people and emotions and just emotional situations. And when you follow those four agreements, and it's hard because some of these four agreements you may struggle with, you know, but once you get better and better at putting these agreements within yourself and within your psyche, when you deal with people, you'll be less likely to get triggered because those four agreements, you're going to go through those four agreements in every situation and figure out, okay, which agreement do I need to use for this situation? Which agreement do I need to use for this situation? And it gets easier to deal with certain things as they come, and you will find yourself being more emotionally available and open because you don't have all this stuff just congested in you and just like waiting to come the hell out. So now to my unpopular opinion about triggers. Now, this is simply just a different way to look at it. I have to do this because I feel like I won't be true to myself and my channel if I don't give different ways to look at triggers, because we always look at triggers from a victim standpoint as well. But also too, what I find within the spiritual community is that we're so used to attaching spiritual meanings, like I mentioned before in the video, to everything that we don't allow ourselves to actually be fucking human and honor certain things that come up within our emotions. And this is what I mean by this. Now, say I hear a lot of people say that if you meet with somebody and, you know, they rub you the wrong way or they do something and you're triggered by it, or they say something that you're triggered by it, you know, that's work, internal work you have to do. And it is true to a certain extent, especially if you know that you have wounds within certain areas in your life that you haven't healed. Then yes, that is very true. And you know that you haven't done the work and that you still have pains and negative thoughts and emotions towards whatever this situation was in your life that you did not get a chance to heal yet, or you haven't started healing yet. So yes, that is very true. But I also realized too in my spiritual journey that everything is not spiritual. Yes, you can be around someone who may trigger you, and it has nothing to do with anything that you have to do. Yes, I'm going to say that again. You could be around someone who triggers you, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something about you that you have to heal. Understand when you go on your spiritual journey, and then when I say spiritual, it's just only an awareness that you are on a journey of healing and self-awareness and elevation. That's what it means to me, you know. So when you are on this path, and say you do hurt certain healing and you purge certain energies and things within yourself, you can be a magnet, a positive magnet to positive and negative people. That is possible. It happens all the time. Not only do you attract people from negative parts, but you also attract people from positive aspects of yourself as well. But also, you can attract people who are attracted to your Pacific light. And that has nothing to do with things that you haven't healed or things that you haven't worked on. That is very possible. And you have to understand, the more you elevate spiritually and purge certain things within your aura and your spirit, you're going to be a magnet to everything good and bad. Even those people in those situations who mean you no good. And to me, you know, when I think of things like that, I think of, okay, what is it about this particular person that's triggering me? And you know, sometimes it could literally be that that person energetically is just not for you, and that's okay. It's nothing against that person or you. And sometimes we have to be okay with that in spirituality, not attaching a spiritual meaning to everything. Or you're triggered. That's something you need to work on. And sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes you can really be around a person who just simply not for you energetically. And that's okay. You know, we have to not be so quick to make ourselves the victim and put ourselves in the negative mindset. It's not always negative when we deal with people. Sometimes you can deal with people who are just not for you. But it's being able to discern the difference between the two. Do you know how to discern the difference between, am I triggered, or is this person just not for me? And that comes with, you know, changing certain thoughts and beliefs within your mindset and working on those triggers, so you're confident and healed enough within those triggers to know when something happens that you're not being triggered because there's something on your end that you haven't healed, and that it's just something within this person energy that's not an energetic match for you. And that's all right. It is all right. And I find that a lot of the time, you know, when we place so much spiritual meaning on things, you know, it kind of puts us in like to me, a mental and emotional prison, because it makes you feel like, well, dang, you know, I can't form any new relationships, or I can't be around people because I get triggered easily. And I just feel that you shouldn't be, you know, that hard on yourself. Because once you get to a place where you're emotionally healthy enough and you are somewhat at peace with your triggers and you've healed them, you'll be able to discern the difference right off top. And you won't be in limbo to where you're on the one end where you say, well, I'm always being triggered, or I'm always attracting triggering people to me. You know, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you can attract people who are just not for you. So that was my unpopular opinion. I know I probably said it like a million times, but I really wanted to stress that because I feel like I run into it so much. And I've even had people disagree with me, you know, about certain things I post on my social media or have not. And it's not coming from a place, you know, it's more of a misunderstanding. And it's coming from a place of, sometimes some things are just not for you. But again, I have to understand that sometimes people project as well. So you just have to make sure that you're discerning enough to understand the difference between the two. So that was it for my spiritual video, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stick to for my next video.